All right, so we're going to talk about the 5 critical components of what is Next Education. And the first one is that Next Education is parent-directed. This is very important because parents have the plan, like we've been talking about with Parents Know the Purpose. And so parents have the plan, parents know what the plan is, and now other people need to come alongside to help support that plan. But it is parent-directed. Now, parent-directed education is not new to my life. I actually became a homeschooled student in 1989 or so. We had just found out that homeschooling was legal, and it had been legal for a little bit longer than we knew, but we had just found out that it could be done, and we decided to dive in. I was in 5th grade at the time, and so I guess I'm dating myself, but anyhow, so I met the parent-directed education component at that time. Parent-directed education, like I have up here, customized education. Education framed by love. It reduces negative peer pressure. It shelters children during development. It sets their moral compass, making family a very strong priority. I see this in my children all the time. It lets children rest and eat as needed. This is important during the years that they're growing. And it also lets the education adjusts to gifts and learning disabilities, or learning, also just learning patterns, learning traits, learning styles. So this is the parent-directed framework. It's a fabulous part of an education, but I think by the time you see the other puzzle pieces that we're going to put in this framework, I think you're going to see that there's much more. Now, the second component of my education as a child is that it was Christian. This puzzle piece allows education to be for the glory of God. It includes Bible instruction. It includes morality in the education and strengthens morality in the heart of the child. It gives the child a purpose, since the purpose of life is to glorify God. And it also helps the child to know God, sometimes by getting out of the way, and sometimes by actively educating that child in how you can know God. All right? So we have the Christian piece of the puzzle. But then the next piece that we need is the classical piece. Now, the classical piece of the education, this is one that people are a little bit less familiar with in this area, but classical education is strong with focusing on the great ideas of world cultures, history study, framework. It's a framework for learning. You have the different stages of learning, such as the grammar stage learning, when children are able to retain information easily. They remember nursery rhymes really well. They also memorize Pokemon cards and a number of other things. And so we take advantage of that and teach them a world timeline and some fabulous facts about Latin and science and history and a bunch of other things that they'll be really happy that they know later on. Then the framework for learning continues with the middle school age. It's called the dialectic age. It's when they're learning to question things, and they can learn to question them with good logic skills, and they can learn to make a good argument. And so we try to train them in classical education. Then finally you have the rhetoric stage, where they're in high school now, and they're able to start putting forward their opinion and learning how to weigh their opinion against the opinions of their peers and how to put all that together, right? So classical education. They also, they study the art of persuasion, as I was kind of touching on, and critical thinking, I've kind of already covered that in the stages, but that's a real strength. Now, hands-on science is another piece of the puzzle, and hands-on science is actually something that when I saw what it was capable of doing, I was utterly floored. Hands-on science, as we think about the experiences that children have in science museums, and that is definitely all hands-on science, and it's all really great, and we're going to have stuff that's very much like what you think of when you think of a science museum. However, it also goes a little bit further than that, because some of the concepts of science are very difficult. For example, the idea of elements is difficult. So what if they could make a periodic table pillowcase with glow-in-the-dark radioactive elements? What about that? What if they could play games? What if they could do the periodic table jump rope rhyme? What about that? you can see how the hands-on becomes not just hands-on with the stuff, although that's super important, but hands-on also with the concepts, where children get to play with the concepts, they get to play with the periodic table, using that as an example because it's one of the things that we're going to be doing this fall, but then there's a bunch of other great hands-on curricula that have that same philosophy. So hands-on science. Conceptual science foundation. Experiences cement retention. They actually understand. I know we all have the idea that high school chemistry is something that you can never understand unless you happen to be one of those weird people that somehow understands it despite the fact that it's not understandable. But the problem is that we're just preparing students too late. If they start in late elementary, middle school, and they study those conceptual sciences, by the time they get to high school, they're actually ready for that information, and they actually retain that information. They understand that information. And I think that's, frankly, a little bit miraculous. This has broad application, too. I wanted to point out health, business, etc. Now, mind you, that might sound like healthcare, but it's also health, which we all have bodies, and we all need to take care of our bodies. And so health is also personal health. Knowing science supports your personal health. Knowing science also supports a growing number of fields. Honestly, there are very few fields that are being untouched by science today. Business. Business education is also crucial, particularly for our city. I think that cities in general need more businesses, but our city in particular really needs more businesses. And so when we train up young leaders and we give them an early grounding in business principles and practices, this is just a great thing for our city and is going to allow kids to lead. Business also, though, helps kids find their talents. The kids are going to notice very quickly in business class that one kid is good at fill in the blank, whatever it is that we need to do, and another kid is really not that good at it. They're going to notice that, and it's going to help kids find their talents, but it's also going to help kids appreciate talents of others. They're going to see that other people can do things that they can't do. This teaches teamwork, appreciation. Of course, I've already touched on the fact that this teaches them how to generate wealth. I'm passionate about kids understanding how you make money because we need to know that in this world. And frankly, all work in ministry uses money concepts. So no matter what they do, if they go into ministry, if they go into business, if they are just at home, they will always be interfacing with the principles of finance. These puzzle pieces, when put together, make an absolutely outstanding education. I am thrilled to see all of this fitting together, education being done that's parent-directed, classical, Christian, that has hands-on science as an integral part, and that teaches kids business education. I think this is a fabulous education. I think it's world-class, and it's going to create leaders for our country in the future. So.